Welcome to Focus on the Family with psychologist and author Dr. James Dobson. I'm Chris Fabry, filling in for John Fuller today, and we have a program you are not going to want to miss. On Monday of this week, Governor Sarah Palin made a stop in Colorado Springs and was greeted by a huge crowd, and since her day was packed with activities, she simply didn't have the time to stop in to visit with us here at Focus. But Dr. Dobson was able to talk with her by phone as she traveled in her motorcade on her way to Loveland, Colorado. I should also note that a little bit later in the program, you'll hear our Senior Vice President of Public Policy and Government, Tom Minery, join Doctor in this discussion. But let's pick up that conversation now with Dr. Dobson introducing our esteemed guest.
Of course, Sarah Palin is the governor of Alaska and the 2008 Republican candidate for Vice President of the United States. In 1984, she was runner-up in the Miss Alaska pageant. After working as a sports reporter at an Anchorage television station, Palin served 2 terms on the Wasilla, Alaska City Council. But then she was elected governor of Alaska in 2006 by defeating the incumbent governor, Frank Murkowski, in the Republican primary, and then former Democratic Alaska governor Tony Knowles in the general election. She gained attention for publicizing ethical violations, not in the Democratic Party, but in her own state Republican Party leaders. Palin is strongly pro-life and pro-family. She belongs to Feminists for Life. There are many policies and beliefs that we hold in common, and I'm looking forward to talking to her, and I'm told that she is on the phone. Hello, Governor.
Hello, Dr. Dobson. How are you?
Well, I'm doing fine, but that's not the question. How in the world are you doing?
I'm doing just fine also. Thank you.
What a pleasure to talk to you this morning as your motorcade moves through our state of Colorado. You are one busy lady these days, aren't you?
We are doing our best to get the message out there, Dr. Dobson, trying to let people know what the choices are on November 4th, yes.
How are you bearing up physically under the pressure of the national spotlight like this?
Just fine. Physically, I feel great. I'm energized, and I think I'm kind of wired to do this, to keep this kind of schedule. It's great. It gets a little bit wearing, some of the political shots taken at the family. I have to admit that's not my favorite part of this, but overall, it's all good. It's fine.
Speaking of your family, do you take your children with you on the plane and on the bus? I guess you're going 10 or 12 hours a day. I saw you speak here in Colorado Springs, and that it was televised locally, and your little Piper was sitting behind you, and she was cheering wildly while you spoke. She must be one of your biggest fans.
She is. John McCain says that she is his biggest, best campaigner. And yeah, today, in fact, we have with us Willow and Piper and Trig, of course, and they bring their schoolwork with them, and then they head back to the classroom and get caught up, and then they join us up again. So it's working out perfectly.
Well, I want to tell you that I'm one of those great fans, too, and I just want you to know that Shirley and I are praying for you, for your safety and for your health, and that God's perfect will be done on November the 4th. Shirley just had a prayer event here. She's chairman of the National Day of Prayer, and we had 430 people here for the weekend. They prayed for the whole weekend. It was not a political event, but we were sure asking for God's intervention.
Well, it is that intercession that is so needed and so greatly appreciated. And I can feel it too, Dr. Dobson. I can feel the power of prayer and that strength that is provided through our prayer warriors across this nation. And I so appreciate it.
Well, you hear that everywhere you go, don't you?
I do, and that is what allows us to continue to be inspired and strengthened. And, just that great reminder also when we hear along the rope lines that people are interceding for us and praying for us, that it's our reminder to do the same, to put this all in God's hands, to seek His perfect will for this nation, and to, of course, seek His wisdom and guidance in putting this nation back on the right track.
Your faith is very much a part of who you are, isn't it?
It is my foundation. Yes, my Christian faith is.
Yeah. Let me tell you something on a personal level. I don't know if you know my background, but I was a professor of pediatrics at USC School of Medicine for 14 years in the divisions of child development and medical genetics. So I learned to love youngsters with developmental disabilities during that time. And you may not recall it, but in April, before all of this happened, before you were selected by Senator McCain to be his running mate, I wrote to thank you for welcoming little Trig into this world, your little baby with Down syndrome. And I just wanted to express to you what a powerful testimony that was to the sanctity of human life. And you wrote me a very gracious letter back. Mm-hmm. And, there are just so many parents out there who also admire you for your love and care for that precious child.
Well, I so appreciated your words. And yeah, when we found out, I was about 13 weeks along when I found out that Trig would be born with Down syndrome. To be honest with you, it scared me though, and I knew that it would be a challenge, and I had to really be on my knees the entire rest of the pregnancy, asking that God would prepare my heart. And just the second he was born, it was absolute confirmation that prayer was answered, with all of us just falling so in love with him. And then this whole new world that's been opened up to me since then. I've always had near and dear to my heart the mission of protecting the sanctity of life and being pro-life or hardcore pro-lifer, but I think this opportunity for me to really be walking the walk and not just talking the talk. There's purpose in this also, and for a greater good to be met there. I feel so privileged and blessed to have been, chosen to have Trig enter our lives because, I do want it to help us in our cause here in allowing America to be a more welcoming nation for all of our children.
One of the most touching and dramatic moments in the last year for me was when you were speaking at the Republican National Convention, and a little Trig was sitting on Piper's lap, and she wet her fingers and mashed down his hair that was sticking up in the back. I'm sure that she has seen you do that many times. Boy, that really grabbed my heart, I'll tell you.
I know. That was a nice kind of a manifestation there of that, one of our little mother hen there in Piper, but just of, that innocent, childlike love that kids certainly have for one another, and truly that is that love that our country needs more of. And Dr. Dobson, you have been just on the forefront of all of this good for so many years, and your reward's going to be in heaven, because I know that you take a lot of shots also, but please know that on our end, as kind of outsiders looking in at what you have accomplished all these years, if it were not for you, so many of us would be missing the boat in terms of hearing the message and understanding what it is that we can do to further the cause of life and of ethics in our nation. Those things that we should be engaged in, we owe so much to you.
Well, you're very kind in saying that, but we're on the same team in that regard. I'm just trying to serve the Lord like you are, and listening to his voice. With regard to the sanctity of human life, it just grieves me greatly how the blood of maybe 48 million babies who have been aborted cries out to God from the ground. The pro-life and pro-family message is very much a part of who you are, isn't it?
It is. And again, that's just been a part of who I've been all these years, but now with a greater opportunity that I feel very blessed to be in this position, a greater opportunity to perhaps help others understand what we can do to usher in more of that respect for life. I'm very, very privileged.